Before we get into it, I just wanted to say that this video won't have the usual editing and meme and effect quality as most of my other videos. I've been pretty busy lately, so it's been hard to find the time to give this video the pizzazz that I usually aim for with my videos. I'll try to make up for it in my next video though. Anyways, on with the video. Handheld gaming has been getting crazy popular lately. In the last handful of years, handheld gaming has exploded in popularity. I think it started out with the success of the Nintendo Switch, letting people play games that were originally only on home consoles on the go. Then PC handhelds started to become popular, with devices like the Steam Deck and ROG Ally being really popular among PC gamers. Now, it seems like Microsoft and Sony are looking to throw their hats in the ring. Should they even bother though? Nintendo has been pretty much uncontested in the console space for handhelds for a while. A lot of Steam Deck users have been using the devices to emulate Switch games. I mean, sure, but in terms of the big three console manufacturers, Nintendo is the only one that's making a true handheld gaming device that runs games natively. What would a PlayStation and Xbox handheld look like, and could it compete with the Switch? When Sony announced the PlayStation Portal, I was honestly confused as to why I would even buy it. It's pretty much just a Wii U gamepad. It's a screen with a DualSense controller connected to it, and it isn't even able to play games without streaming from a PS5. That defeats the point of even making a handheld. I want to bring it on the go, and if I'm on the go, chances are I won't have an internet connection. I'll only be able to play games that are actually on the device itself, running natively. Plus, if I'm required to stream my games from a PS5, I could literally just do that on my phone for free. You can stream games from your PS5 via the PlayStation Remote Play app, so you could recreate your own PlayStation Portal without a single cost to you. Sure, it would be a pain with the controller not being attached to your phone, but you can get a controller clip for dirt cheap on Amazon. And if you really want to get fancy, you can get a special phone controller for much cheaper than what a PlayStation Portal would run you. Recently though, Sony improved the device by letting you stream games directly from the cloud rather than needing to connect to the PS5. That's pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but still, why not just use your phone? You can stream games from the cloud on your phone as well. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just cheap, but I still don't feel like there's a need to buy this thing. Clearly I'm in the minority though, because the PlayStation Portal managed to outperform Sony's expectations, which is reportedly why they're now looking into releasing a successor to the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation Portable. I think that a new PlayStation handheld would be a great idea. It's what I wanted out of the PlayStation Portal, and I think that it could truly compete with the Nintendo Switch. The PSP had plenty of amazing games on it, and although the DS definitely won out of the two of them, the PSP was a great competitor. And even the PlayStation Vita had some amazing games. Yeah, I mean, it didn't do as well when it came out, but I did think it had some truly amazing games. The cross-buy system and the game streaming capabilities on it were also truly ahead of its time, and I think they inspired a lot of the aspects of the Wii U and 3DS, and even the Nintendo Switch in a way. Still though, despite Sony's proven track record with handheld gaming, I'm concerned about what this new handheld console will look like. Sony has a pretty lackluster lineup of games for the PS5. The release cadence of exclusive games has been downright horrendous. I mean, there's barely anything to play. So not only does Sony already struggle to put out enough games for the PS5, their only console, but now they want to throw another console into the mix? Really? They'll have to divide up all of the work they're putting into their games. But what is there to divide up? They've barely got anything cooking right now. One of the main reasons Nintendo made the Switch is because they were having trouble keeping up when developing games for both the Wii U and 3DS. They essentially had to make two games at once. Now, Sony, a company that can barely even make a single game at a time, wants to make two? Despite all that though, I'm sure that the PlayStation handheld could be great. This handheld will supposedly have the power of a PS5, so it'll be capable of running all sorts of games. If Sony puts the right amount of effort into it, I think that it could go toe-to-toe with the Nintendo Switch, just like the PSP did with the DS. Sony has a bunch of amazing first-party franchises, and there are so many PlayStation franchises that are just laying dormant and haven't been touched for a while. Astro Bot really showed us that with all of the references it had. Maybe with this new PlayStation handheld, they could use that as an opportunity to reboot a lot of these old franchises that haven't gotten love for years. So don't get me wrong, I would love a PlayStation handheld, and if Sony can get their release cadence in check, then I'm sure that this handheld would be amazing. But I would be lying if I said that I'm not concerned about it at all. But hey, at least Sony even bothers with exclusives. I've been trying to remain optimistic about Xbox for a long time now, but if I'm being completely honest, I'm not very hopeful about Xbox as a brand anymore. They've purchased so many studios, but they still don't have many games to show for it. A lot of the studios they've purchased have suffered massive layoffs, which defeats the purpose of even buying them out in the first place. Some have been shut down completely, which, once again, makes me wonder why they even bothered to buy out the company. Did they buy them just so they could get rid of the competition? I mean, seriously, what gives? The studios that have lived long enough to put out games haven't always put out the best stuff. Redfall was a disgrace. I mean, that was horrendous. And Starfield was pretty mediocre if you ask me. The Perfect Dark reboot has been stuck in development hell. I mean, it feels like it's been a million years since that game was announced. The same goes for State of Decay 4. It was announced before the Xbox Series X was even released, and we still don't know when it's coming out, even now when we're about halfway through the generation. This isn't to say that there aren't any good Xbox exclusives, but there definitely aren't very many. I mean, look at Hi-Fi Rush. That was a tremendous game. Amazing game. And then what did Microsoft do? They shut down the studio. Other great games like Sea of Thieves, one of the very few reasons to go out and buy an Xbox, was put on PlayStation. Even franchises like Halo that were once heavy hitters have now faded to mediocrity. The few quality Xbox exclusive games that exist have jumped ship to other platforms, just like Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush. The Xbox handheld will face the same issue that the PlayStation handheld will. Microsoft has done such a terrible job putting out exclusive games for one generation, how could they possibly put out games for two at the same time? Microsoft's lack of exclusives is even less excusable than Sony's, because in the last few years, Microsoft has bought half the freaking video game industry. Where are the games, Microsoft? My biggest gripe, though, is why I would even bother buying an Xbox handheld in the first place. Every Xbox exclusive releases on both the Microsoft Store on Xbox and Windows, and Steam, so I could play every new Xbox exclusive on a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally, some of the leading PC gaming handhelds. The one thing that this Xbox handheld would have going for it, the exclusive games, can also be played on its competitors. Not only that, but a handheld like the Steam Deck is capable of playing Steam games that aren't even on Xbox, as well as emulating games from other consoles. The Nintendo Switch hasn't been too affected by the rise of handheld PCs like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally because it has killer exclusives. Sure, a good amount of people likely bought the Switch just to play third-party home console games on the go, and once the Steam Deck came out, those people jumped ship. But there's no way that those people make up that big of a chunk of the Nintendo Switch player fanbase. Even though the Switch can easily be outperformed by the Steam Deck, people still buy the Switch because they want to play the games exclusive to it. You can say the same thing about the other consoles. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X are leagues ahead of the Switch in terms of hardware, but you can't play Super Mario Odyssey on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, so the Switch is still able to compete with those consoles. The Xbox handheld will not have that advantage. You can play all of its games on other PC handhelds, so unless the Xbox handheld is more powerful than the Steam Deck and ROG Ally, it's cheaper than all of those, or it has some other crazy new feature, it won't be able to compete. Plus, the Steam Deck and ROG Ally already have a big established player base. How many people do you really think are going to ditch their Steam Deck and ROG Ally for something that is fundamentally the same thing, if not lacking in some departments? Not all hope is lost for the Xbox handheld, though. There is an opportunity for the Xbox handheld to improve upon some of the minor issues with the Steam Deck and ROG Ally. If the Xbox handheld could get a better battery life, offer more storage, and be less bulky, I honestly think it might stand a chance to compete. Plus, if Microsoft lets people use Windows on the Xbox handheld straight out of the box, then it would honestly have a massive leg up on the Steam Deck. Some of the biggest issues I've heard about the Steam Deck is its battery life, the fact that it's really big and thick, and the fact that it doesn't run Windows straight out of the box. So there are some games that either don't work at all, or there are some minor roadblocks in getting games to work. Overall though, I am excited to see what the handhelds from Sony and Microsoft end up looking like. Of course, since these devices are so early in development, there's a good chance that they may never even make it past the research phase, and they'll never see the light of day. I really do hope we get something though, because more options is almost always a good thing. Sure, I don't get why I would want to buy an Xbox handheld when the Steam Deck is available, and there's a good chance that the PlayStation handheld lacks exclusives, just like the PS5 does. But I respect that these console manufacturers are experimenting with new hardware. It's also very easy for me to complain about certain aspects of these devices, but in reality, we know nothing about them. They haven't been announced, they haven't been released. All of these things I'm complaining about may never end up being issues, because it's still very possible that these devices undergo a massive change during development. These issues may never come to fruition, and I hope they don't. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. As graphical fidelity is plateauing and can't improve much more, these companies need to spend more time working on different gimmicks and special hardware rather than relying on graphical fidelity to sell their hardware. Working on handhelds like these are a great way to sell hardware without relying on the whole "look at how much better the graphics looks" pitch. It's gonna be a long time before we hear anything about these consoles. I mean, it's gonna be a handful of years at the minimum. But I hope we hear something from them soon, and when we do, I'm sure they'll be worth the wait. But hey, only time will tell.